But this is where the deer every night, like clockwork. They're out in that. They come out of this marsh. They go up in through the thicket. They go through the prairie and they go out and feed in that cornfield. And late at night they do the reverse. And it's just a corridor of where they can get food. And I've been trying to get them to kind of leave a couple rows every year in the wintertime, because just to have that during the wintertime is so beneficial for deer.
Oh yeah.
So, but this is an area that deer travel through great.
Yeah, you can see the trails going through here.
Yeah. Smartweed right here. This is one of those plants that typically comes up a lot. Even land that hasn't been restored or just kind of abused land over the years. This smartweed, these little seeds are just packed with protein. Pheasants love them. Deer are always chomping on these things, but wonderful plant, you know, for
And they like the water, obviously.
Oh, they love it because it's just loaded with birds. On top and below is all where your deer will hide out, and they can browse all that stuff all winter and everything. It's wonderful.
You see all the berries on the red osier dogwood here too.
Oh yeah, they're coming out already.
Yeah, they're coming out.
And I've cut them down like 4 or 5 times, and they come up every time. But I've never used chemicals on the roots. But I think this time I'm going to cut them down and actually use chemicals, because I'm sick of cutting them.
You know.
But they're nice trees to kind of get rid of. You know.
They
so many beneficial other things. You know.
Yep. And you know, as far as a whitetail standpoint, they're one of the trees that are nice because you can cut them, you can hinge cut them.
Oh yeah.
And they will lay down horizontally, and they will leaf right back out again. They're like you said, they're extremely hard to get rid of. If you want to get rid of them, get rid of them.
Yep.
But in some places, we actually use it to our benefit when we need to get some lateral cover on the ground for deer. So
and they're quick to grow.
Very
they
quick.
Don't mess around. They
no,
grow quick.
Very quick.
They go 10 feet in a year. You know.
Yep.
Coming in and out of this thicket and marsh through this area right here, which sadly right now is canary grass, which we're going to try to shape up one of these years, going out into the neighbor's cornfield, or into the neighbor's soybean field, pardon me. So this is like a major highway for them, to kind of give you an idea.
And look at these edges, just wonderful.
Yeah.
Ain't it? So you can see the willow growth in here. Now these are, as you can tell, they're too mature right now. Most of it is all up way too high. That's that's where you want it.
This is about the size you want.
Yep.
You can keep them about this size. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And that is doable. It is doable. You can do it with fire. You know, it's I've done. The problem with this, I haven't burnt this for about 10 years back here. So you can tell 10 years of growth in willows, you know. So they're quick growers though. Boy, they can grow fast on
and this looks to be like a gray willow.
Yes, I think so. Yep. There's an old bow stand right there, Dave.
Oh yeah.
And if you look out there to the northwest of that's where the spring hole pond is. You can go up there and watch ducks all day if you want.
Wonderful.
Especially when it's like 20 below. It's really fun to watch.
I'm not going up there when it's 20 below.
Good idea.
What a great edge in here though, man.
Again, we got cattail marsh, spring-fed pond right over there. This is that transition area to go out into the fields and into the prairie here. So perfect area for deer. We like to have those transition areas.
Yeah, what a diversity from the upland prairie to the wetter willow dogwood areas.
I call it the milkweed patch. We kind of left this area because the butterflies just benefit so much from these milkweeds out there. There's just so many. And you're trying to figure out why that is.
Did you ever figure out why?
Well, the reason why we think it was in the soil, because this farm is now a pheasant farm basically, but they grow crops, soybeans and corn. But before that, they were a pretty large hog operation. And they put their manure down on these fields and down in here too. And they figured out that the soil was so organic and rich from that hog manure all those years that this is what happens when you.
So this is the end result.
So we'll come up to the hill here and you get a little better view of this arm of it. Now this again is a transition zone. We go from marsh to a thicket area where those taller cottonwoods are there, where all those willows are, and then suddenly we got prairie here, and then we transition out into a major food area, this massive soybean field here, which he rotates between corn and soybeans. So kind of gives you an idea. The deer, that's why they're in here. This is amazing prairie restoration. I've told some people that are really kind of experts at prairie about this, and they just kind of don't believe it. So I think next weekend I have some people coming out just so they can see it. So they don't believe it. So, but this is the ultimate deer area here. You got willows here, and on the other side of that, you've basically got dogwood and about 80 acres of wetland out there. And then you've got this line of these beautiful, big, tall cottonwoods, and then prairie stretch all the way through here, all the way along this marsh. And then on the south side of this prairie restoration, you've got agriculture. So you've got this wonderful thing. You've got a place where these deer are going to be bedding down all the time from the shelter. They can get out of the wind here because it's so thick, this tree belt.
And we would be facing north here, so you
Correct.
can kind of get an idea of,
Yep.
in the winter with that north wind, and they're laying out here in the southerly side of it in the sun. So
the only bad thing about it we could think of is my neighbor came down here one day where he could see, and there were about 40 deer out here in this field. So he was like, he's never seen that many deer here before, but they all went into this prairie. So he was pretty amazed that it could have that effect. But boy, you create habitat, and all of a sudden, all this stuff shows up. It's amazing.
And 40 deer for the area that we're in here in Wisconsin. This is a lot of agriculture.
Yeah.
That's a lot of deer in this area.
It is, because really, between my 40 acres, this marsh, which is 80, and then my neighbors over here and his big woods over here, which certainly helps. You know, you're probably looking at maybe 150 to 160 acres of really good habitat, you know, but it's really not all that much. So to have 40 deer in that area is pretty good.
Right,
so,
right.
And again, there's some transitions from other areas, I'm sure, too, but we're kind of isolated in an island here, too. So, but we're just trying to make the habitat as absolutely best we could. And this farmer was so awesome to just think of this. And it not only help the deer out just 100%, but all these songbirds in here and stuff. And then the key thing, though, is the runoff off these farm fields that flowed into this marsh. He put the brakes on that so much. And this stretch of thick prairie, and again, it's all those deep root systems that are going to prevent all that topsoil from going into the marsh and then into the lake. So that's the key thing here. He's holding all this soil. So what an awesome thing. So the deer not only win, but everybody wins, really.
Yep.
So it's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, great
And not only that, for him, he's always kind of complained this has been an area that floods out pretty good, and it's really been kind of a crummy area for production of soybeans and corn and wheat. So he's really not losing anything by doing this, but he's gaining massively for the area, and really making his farm more valuable, really.
Right.
This is a great place to come down here in the evening when the sunset. It's just fun to watch deer walk through here. It's just incredible. I've seen some beautiful bucks this year already in here. So
what a great,
I'm jealous. I wish I owned it.
What a great layout this is.
And the thing is, this prairie restoration here was done with only about 25 species, because that's really all he wanted. So we just started really slow with this prairie, and it was just the 4 of us who did this prairie. It was all done by hand, just casting seed by hand in November. It was last November.
Frost seeding it.
Yep, frost seeding, exactly. It's just before Thanksgiving, really. So it's just the 4 of us did this area, and then we did along the marsh, and then along his woods over there, and then along the other side of there is a marsh. I think it was about between 8 and 11 acres we did total, somewhere in there. So
all by hand.
All by hand. This is kind of the stretch of it, and it was a fair amount of work. And we picked all this seed came from my prairie. We just picked it over there and brought it over here. So I mean, it didn't really cost anything, you know, just
some time.
And actually, we had a lot of fun because we laughed a lot doing it and had a good time doing it. So
what a great,
we had no idea.
Great way to spend time.
We had no idea this would turn out like this, though. I mean, you've got Indian grass, you know, like this coming up in the first year, and the seed is already so vibrant and great.
6.5 feet tall.
Yeah, exactly.
I see a lot of switchgrass out there. I see big blue stem.
A lot of what's another kind of grass is called a Canadian ryegrass, which is some over there in particular. It kind of looks like wheat hanging there, you know, but it's kind of a cool plant, and it's really a great. It's kind of like a plant that grows. It's right over there, Dave. Here, let me go get one. It looks like a wheat head almost.
Sure,
but it's a native. It's called Canadian rye. Beautiful plant, and it usually acts as kind of a buffer crop, you know.
Yeah.
In the first years, but this prairie, and there's quite a bit of it out here. We planted a lot of this in here because I wanted to make sure and have a good bed down, you know, so we wouldn't, you know, try to stop erosion. But this thing came up so fast that, you know, the Canadian rye came up good too, but everything else came up so wonderful too.
I mean, even look at that switchgrass right in front of you.
Yeah, look at this stuff. This is 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
For first year, amazing. That's a pure native plant too here. That's the real deal. The color is gorgeous too. I mean, man,
beautiful yellow.
It is a wonderful plant. Now to keep this thing viable, what we'll do over the years is the fire can't go that way, into the field obviously, but we will cut a burn lane all the way along his marsh here, probably about 5 or 6 or about 15 feet to give us enough room, and then wait for the right day when there's a gentle north breeze. We'll burn this, start at the corner and burn it. It'll burn right into the field, which it can't burn soil. So it'll be a perfect way to control this too. It'll just keep it healthy. It'll keep some of the plants we don't want in here, like European buckthorn and those sorts of things. We'll burn them out of here. So, yeah. But this is first year, so it's amazing how well this thing did. It's kind of shocking actually. You could tell my neighbor has a bow stand right there in that first cottonwood tree. I
see it over there.
And there's a good reason why that's there, because every year there's a monster buck shot out of there. And usually it's heading over to my prairie. So it's usually the deer that are eating out of my bird feeder. But no, but that's part of it, because that is just a perfect spot to see beautiful deer. And not only that, but you can see the spring hole just north of there. And it's just wonderful to see that, because there's always something going on in there with ducks or whatever. So fox running around or whatever. So everything is benefiting from this. So my neighbor had the sight, the vision to get this in, and it's just an awesome thing.
I mean, I think this is a really good testimony to how good this can turn out in a quick turnaround time too, because everybody's in a hurry nowadays, and a lot of these things take a little bit of time, but they will work. And
really every property, and whether you're a farmer or not, has these areas generally that are really not very productive when it comes down to growing crops or even hay.
Yeah.
So if you take those areas and turn them into magnets, for wildlife and deer, man, you're going to just make your farm or your property that much more valuable and that much more fun to just be at. And we just have fun being around wildlife. I mean, to see a pair of fawns run up by the front door, it's just amazing. And the reason they're there is because of the prairie and all these transition areas, so. But if you can make a healthy environment for everybody, man, everybody wins, and it's just a good feeling, It's just a great thing to do. So this particular prairie, for 1 year, we planted in about 25 species in here, but really only about 10 of them have come up. So this is what it looks like just with those 10 main ones that came up so quickly. And
that's
again,
amazing.
This soil is so organic and rich that they were able to come up this first year, which is amazing, So
wow,
but quite a project,
That is
wonderful thing.
Yeah, it is.
Now, if you could see this land here, my neighbor's prairie, kind of ventures into my area, which is this thicket right here of willow and dogwood over there. And then we get into another cornfield, and then we hit the big part of my prairie, which is about 30 acres over there. But you got all these transition areas for these deer to feel comfortable to get through. And in that transition, there's all these nice places for bedding, for feed, no matter what time of the year. That's everything. Because in the wintertime, deer can struggle, and we just don't want to see that happen. We want them to survive,
Yep.
Especially these, if you could get some bucks like out here, my neighbors are really good about shooting deer. They usually only shoot deer that are kind of the older bucks, the real big deer. Well, they get big for a reason. It's because they got good habitat, they got good feed, to just get them through those tough months. So everything to do that. And these thicket areas are really key to everything. So.
Well, you got a great, I mean, you've pretty much shown what it really means to have a diverse piece of property. And, and your piece of property is not heavily wooded, deer property like a lot of people are looking for. And, you can do so much with these open areas. And I mean, this is just this.
We've kind of discovered that even with my neighbor's woods, there's like a 20-acre oak woods over here, and then my other neighbor over here is about a 10-acre oak woods. We're finding out that they're not sterile environments, but this is where the action is out here in the prairies. This is where these deer want to be, which really surprised me, because I always thought, it just makes sense for deer to be in the woods, but and they are in the woods, but man, this is where they really are a large percentage of the time. They're in these areas where they feel safe. They're surrounded by grass, and feed is everything too. So
feed is everything. I mean, you look around us here, you got acres and acres and acres of soybeans and corn, but people need to remember that, you know, they're going to go out there in the morning, they're going to be out there in the afternoon, but the other 3 times they feed, they're going to be in the prairie. They're going to be in the red osier dogwood, the willow, and that's where they spend a lot of their time. And it's so crucial to get this type of habitat on your property.
That's right. And wetlands are really the same. They're kind of wet prairies to begin with. But if you go out there, the amount of, if they're healthy and good wetlands, the amount of habitat out there and food variety is pretty immense too if they're healthy. So all these things complement each other. So we give these animals a good chance to survive and kind of do their thing here. So everything's benefited from this, though. I mean, the amount of wildlife out here is just incredible that you see. I mean, it's just an island, so to speak, surrounded by, you know, really just, you know, subdivisions and heavy agriculture. So we're really blessed to have an area that these things can exist and we can enjoy, whether you hunt them or watch them or whatever. It's just awesome to have things around. The prairie itself is really beautiful, but without any birds or wildlife, and it's kind of boring. So quite frankly, you know, we want to have some action out here. We have a lot of nesting birds out here, which is really great. Like a lot of those birds that are really having a hard time, like 95% of their populations are gone, really, like meadowlarks and bobolinks. This is where they nest, is in these areas. So we want to keep these areas to just so these species can survive, you know. So, and meadowlarks and bobolinks are some of the most beautiful birds in Wisconsin here. So working hard to try to have enough habitat for them to survive. So
right.
This will help.